there's one thing that I know we have some young people, watching this who take away is be a learner. It is a lifetime activity.
So it really just boils down to how can technology solve your problems rather than trying to figure out how to fit problems into a technological mold.
We just continue to believe that this vision for AR is really what's going to drive, the next major computing platform, not virtual reality.
Transformation is not a one and done, but it's a string of events, of moments, of tipping points where you make choices and you have many forks in the road. You take the good one, the bad one, and you figure out a way of retaining that relevance.
Let's move away from the emphasis on Black suffering and make the celebration of Black excellence the new normal.
But the top portion keeps it really, really dry.
Oh, look at that.
It's really important that we don't ignore feedback, but I much prefer to lean into the love than the hate of the brand. And there's going to be people you can't convert.
People are going to become the largest and richest and most diverse set of their own data. And amazingly, even though that sounds obvious, that's not actually true today.
Netflix can attract the best creators in the world, the Shonda Rhimes, the Duffer Brothers who made Stranger Things, and others. And if advertising sort of gets in the way of that, then we don't have anything.
10 feet, 7 feet, you've arrived at bus stop.
Top line with no bottom line, a waste of time. Bottom line with no top line, just a matter of time.
You need to have the power to say yes, and you need to take it, because you have to be accountable for what you do and you have to take risk, And you need to create the trust to say yes.
You just saw the recap of last year's Signal, which was one of the best ones we've ever had, but this year it promises to be even better. So the next 30 minutes we will spend on a little bit behind the scenes, a little bit about the theme, and we'll take your questions in the last few minutes as well. You can use the chat for that. Please do so, and then we can pick up the questions that come in. We'd also love to know where you're from, and what you're excited about with this year's Signal. And with that, I want to introduce my co-host today, my partner in crime, John Battelle. We have done this Signal event now for 13 years. It was actually an outgrowth of an event that John did years ago. Now it seems still like yesterday. It started as Web 2, which was one of the premier events in the world when the internet really started to take off. And many, many memorable moments. And we've copied many pages out of John's book to apply to Signal to make it a great event that it is today. So let's get started. I would like to, every year, John, we collect our thoughts under a theme, right? That's basically the coat rack, as I always say, for the program that we organize. Can you give a little bit of background on how we got to the theme this year and why this is important now?
Absolutely, Stan. It's good to see you again, and everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. It's always fun to get this close to a big event that we've been working on for 12 months. So next week is the week. We hope you join us online at least. I know that the in-person is pretty much sold out, but we hope we see you online. So we do have this theme every year. And this was an interesting year to work a theme up because there's so much uncertainty. And that's really where we started is, remember, we start thinking about this theme 7 or 8 months prior to the event. And the world was a pretty uncertain place back then, and I think it remains so. And uncertainty is not necessarily the friend of good business strategy and planning. Although I think from our program, there'll be lots of lessons as how it could be. But in uncertain times, you want to maybe go a little bit back to the fundamentals. And that's what our theme really does hit on, It is driving market growth and value creation. And these are phrases that are very near and dear to those of you who might be joining us from Procter & Gamble. P&G has been a leader in defining what market growth and value creation really means. And the idea is, with a theme like that, can we ladder the speakers and the insights and the case studies that we present to that theme? And I think this year we've really managed to do that in a very tangible way. We should get into some of that content, Dan. Actually, I wanted to ask you, tell us a few of your favorite, don't play favorites, but a few of your favorite speakers and sessions, or maybe some themes that are coming out of our lineup.
Yeah, you know who my favorite is, of course, right? So it's like, what makes me excited is like it's a very serious business theme. Driving market growth and value creation should be in the banner for every company. But who says you can't have some fun with it? It's on Wednesday next week, but it will feel a little bit like a Sunday afternoon because we have beer, pizza, and football in one event, right? And for those of you in the US, you know that is in the fall what lines up, and they're all market growth stories. It's phenomenal stories. Start with the NFL, which has expanded in many ways, and not just because of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, although we will hear those names in some of the talks as well. But also because the NFL has expanded the playing field. I just saw this morning they had an ad running for flag football. Who knew that the NFL was big into flag football? I remember that as a high school game that you played with some friends in the afternoon or so. Beer, the fastest growing, this is now a trivia question that I start to ask to people. It's like, what's the fastest growing beer brand in the United States? And oh, by the way, it's non-alcoholic, and everybody gets it wrong, right? It's Athletic Brewing, and they just announced yesterday that they are going to now open a second brewery on the West Coast. They got just a whole capital infusion of $50 million from General Atlantic, and the company's now worth, I believe, like $800 million, which is astounding for a company that started in 2017. So the CEO is coming. And for those on site, we will have some samples as well. And what we'll add to that is Domino's Pizza. We will actually have Kate Trumbull, who's the Chief Brand Officer of Domino's Pizza and a P&G alumna. And she will talk about how Domino's has actually out-delivered the return on investment that you would have done if you would have invested in Google in 2008. You probably would have made less money. You would have made less money than if you had invested in Domino's. And that is just another of those trivia questions. Like, how did they do that? That is something very surprising. So those three make for a non-traditional set of partners to talk about market growth and value creation. And I bet there's going to be a lot of inspiration from those three alone for what people could go think about, how it changes their mindset, and have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. The Domino story was really fascinating when we do pre-production calls with all of our speakers, and you really learn the personal journeys of each of them. And the Domino story was kind of mind-blowing. I had no idea, how they basically turned their business around in the last, 7 or 8 years, and became one of the fastest growing stocks on the U.S. stock market. And of course, Athletic. All of us were very excited to meet them because we all use their product.
Yes.
And, they've grown not just the non-alcoholic beer market, where they now have a third of the market and growing rapidly, but they've grown the entire adult beverage market. And that's really core to P&G's business strategy of market growth. It's not just about growing your share of market. It's about growing the overall market. And that's exactly what Athletic has done. That's also what Domino's has done with their delivery and their apps and so on. So there's just great stories to be told there. But we also have, Signal started at its core about how can we leverage digital? How can we leverage digital, particularly when it comes to going to market. And we've always had a strong, theme of that throughout the past 13 years. And that is again true this year. There's a little bit of a thread of football through it now as well, in that we will have the chief business officer of YouTube, which has the Sunday ticket business. We have the head of advertising for Amazon, which also has leaned heavily into sports. And we have the chief revenue officer of Walmart and their advertising business, which has become a major player in one of the biggest and fastest growing portions of the advertising market, which of course is retail media. And all of this is driven by that infrastructure of data and consumer insights. And of course, all three of those are very large partners of Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, and talking about technology, John, I think, the word AI, the letters AI will be spoken many times on stage. And I think we're hitting last year in the conversation was like, what is it? Wow, this is great, right? It was this surprise. And then some of the fears that go with it, like, will our jobs go away and so on. I think we're starting to see a moment of reality setting in, and we'll talk about that with many of our guests as well. And for example, we have another P&G alumna who left the company a while ago and has started a very utilitarian AI company that helps with calendar scheduling, has some remarkable results to report. But she also has a great vision of what's coming. Maddie Bell is well known within P&G circles. She is a fireball, and she's the right person to lead that future and can tell us many things and relate to a P&G audience very closely. We also will have another unique element in the program. Aside from AI, another thing that is coming up very closely is robotics. And you might be familiar with robotics as like the pictures of these arms in car plants that move. But more and more robots are becoming humanoid. And that's not just to have, not to have help in the household or so. No, it's industrial. I mean, humanoid robots could live significantly more for longer than human beings, and they're helping out in that set. Combine that with AI, you have a very powerful mix. And so we have the CEO of Apptronic, a company out of Austin, I believe, that is working on humanoid robots. And the CEO, Jeff Cardenas, will come in and tell us a little bit about what that will mean for our future in business and how that could drive market growth and value creation as well.
Yeah.
Inside of P&G, we have many, many innovators as well. And we will feature about 6 of them. Several of them are focused on AI. First of all, P&G has built a tremendous platform for internal experimentation that's used by thousands of people today without the risk of losing our proprietary data, which is quite a feat in the industry already. But then there's many people who have wonderful examples of how to make good use of AI with great outcomes, because it's a tool to lead to business outcomes. So we'll hear of those people as well.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, we also have the CEO of Snowflake, which has a significant AI presence and is building its future business and current business on providing a safe and secure data platform for leveraging AI. But beyond that, you mentioned before football, but we have kind of a sports theme running throughout the day. You hinted at somebody coming related to the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift narrative. Well, the man behind Travis, he's actually one of 2 brothers who started a sports agency, is based in Cincinnati. And he and his brother built an agency around identifying regional talent and building them into national talent. Little did they know when they built their business that Travis Kelce, one of their earliest clients, would become one of the centerpiece stories of the NFL. But he will be coming to tell us about his journey in building his agency and being ready for the earthquake that was the relationship between Travis and Taylor. But beyond just the NFL, we have also a strong story to be told from Ally Financial and Andrea Brimmer, who is the CMO. she made the decision to align her brand, which was a very fast-growing spin-out startup financial services business that came out of kind of the wreckage of the 2008 meltdown, particularly in the automobile financing sector. She built it into one of the leading brands in finance over the past 10 years, and in large part by aligning the brand with women's sports, which she did 5 or 6 years ago, well before women's sports broke into the mainstream in the last couple of years. So we're going to talk about that story, which is super exciting. And sports is part of the larger entertainment sector. And of course, we have YouTube coming and Amazon. We'll be talking about Prime Video. But also, we have a wonderful addition to our lineup who will be anchoring the end of the event, Ava DuVernay, a well-known and extremely talented filmmaker who will be coming to talk about her latest film as well as her journey through Hollywood and the stories that she tells through her work. So I'm very excited about that interview.
But wait, we have more. I mean, the fun part of Signal is always like, we do Signal to deliver a great program. And yes, there is a bit of entertainment, but it's all about inspiration, education to go do something with it. What I'm most proud of is that every year we have an opportunity to bring people to the stage from P&G themselves, the P&G innovators, I alluded to that already, who are doing tremendous work around the world to lead the company in new spaces and be an example for others, inside and outside the company. Some of them have to do with supply chain management, one of the most complex things around. We all assume that when we go to a store and there's products on the shelf that just automatically happen. The machine behind that is tremendously complex. And to make that work is amazing. And one of the innovators will talk about that. We have one of the innovators talk about a whole brand relaunch of a very staid brand in Mexico, Ariel, and how she masterfully found the consumer insights, because for P&G is always the consumers is at the center, that really unlocked a rebirth of the brand in Mexico, which is another phenomenal story of how you bring innovation to life with real business results and market growth attached, right? And then we also are focused somewhat on sustainability. And we know with e-commerce, with digital commerce, that packaging is sometimes the bane of this. It's like I'm embarrassed with all the cardboard that every week I put in the recycle bin. At least I get to put it in a recycle bin. But creating new packaging fit to win in the digital commerce environment that reduces cost and makes the world more sustainable is also a lot of work, and we have a leading person from P&G also presenting on that one. It's an amazing lineup of people that I'm very proud of to work with in the company, and how we can learn from each other and how everybody can learn from them as well. So it is not just the outside in, it's a little bit a look inside of P&G as well for everybody, all our partners online. So I'm excited about this program, John. I think, every year we ask ourselves, gosh, how do we pull another program off like last year, right? And somehow magic happens. People say yes to our invitations. We find the stories. Then, of course, it's up to you, the master of hosting, to ask them some really good questions to fill that out. But I'm excited. I can't wait till next Wednesday that everybody's there. We will have a full auditorium in Cincinnati, and I think right now we have like 3,000 people or more registered for virtual participation. So we'll have a good crew.
Yeah, we definitely will. I want to remind everyone who's out there, please put your questions about Signal into the comments, and we'll try to get to them, as many as we can. I wanted to mention a couple of other speakers, Dan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Just because I really love this program. It's remarkable in that almost every single one of them has, well, actually all of them have a very direct relationship to the theme of market growth and value creation. I don't know about anyone else out there listening, but I and my family have become somewhat addicted to the New York Times, and it's not because of the news. I've been a journalist and involved and with and reading the New York Times for decades. But their growth story around games, recipes, and sort of other things besides news is really extraordinary. And the woman behind it is coming to tell that story. Of course, it's one of the hardest businesses in the world, news, to turn into an actual business. And the New York Times 15 years ago, when it began a journey to create as its core a subscriber base as opposed to only advertising. And it was very successful at that. But then it had the question of how do we grow the market? And that question was answered with its extremely successful cooking and games offerings, which I would say that it's possible our family spends more time in those sections than with the news itself. So I'm really excited that she is coming. And Stan's mentioned logistics a couple of times. The fastest growing and largest e-commerce logistics company in the world is a subsidiary or spinout of Alibaba, Cainiao. And the CEO of that company will be with us, and we'll be having a conversation about the extraordinary things that company is doing with logistics across and around the world in terms of changing the game in significant ways and really significantly growing the market because it's found ways to do things at a much more efficient cost and a much quicker. And that's going to be exciting as well, because that has implications for business models up and down the supply chain.
Yeah, I think that story in the pre-conversation that we had, those are mind-blowing numbers that they said. Like, they already ship to any place in China within 24 hours. And they want to be able to ship anything around the world in 72 for basically half the price that it's done today or less.
That's right.
It's just like, how are you going to do that?
Their goal is to get this.
That'll be very interesting. And one of the ingredients of that one might actually be, like, we always have a local component to have logistics nearby. I assume that not all of you have landed at Cincinnati Airport, which actually is not in Cincinnati. Don't look for it in Ohio. It's in Kentucky. It's Northern Kentucky Airport, actually, but it's called CVG. The CEO of that airport is also visiting us. They have had a remarkable turnaround story. We used to be one of Delta's main hubs for passengers for a long time until Delta merged with Northwest. And that could have been the demise of the airport, but they totally reinvented it. And it's now one of the largest freight airports in the world. There you go with logistics, right? And it's an enabler for this. And Candace's view, Candace McGraw, who's the CEO, his view is not just limited to that little piece of land that they have, or actually a big piece of land in Northern Kentucky, but the whole transportation corridor between Dayton and Lexington. She wants to make it hum for this region. And she's well on her way, and she will share that story with the audience as well. So that's our local Cincinnati component. Yep. Now, Andre Eanes is local too. Okay. And by the way, trivia question to you: where did Travis Kelce get his diploma from? Which university?
I have no idea.
He got it this year at the University of Cincinnati.
What?
Yeah, he did.
Huh.
It was a big event. So that's where they met. So
I had no idea. Wow. I think we do have a question. I'm seeing one in the chat. It's an easy one for us to answer, which is, will the sessions next week be recorded? And the answer is absolutely. And all of you are invited to sign up for our ongoing Signal 360 publication, which we produce every month with a fresh crop of stories around strategy and innovation related to the Signal themes. You can get that at pgsignal.com. And that's where you'll see a lot of next week's videos start to appear once they're all produced and ready for consumption. So stay tuned, go to pgsignal.com and sign up for our newsletter. You'll join 20,000 or so other folks who read our work, and we're busy keeping the Signal theme alive all year long.
Hey, John, question for you. We will open actually with the CEO of P&G, John Moeller. What are you going to ask him?
No fair. Well, it's always a fun job to interview the CEO of the company, bright and early, first thing in the morning. I'm going to ask him how he thinks the year went. It was a very tumultuous year, conflict around the globe, continued disruptions in supply chain, political acrimony on the rise, a difficult time for a global company to navigate, 100+ different sets of political realities and regulatory realities. So we'll get into that. I'm going to ask him to explain what the theme means to him. He's incredibly cogent when it comes to business strategy. He's very clear on what strategy is, so I want to unpack that with him. And given that it's the beginning of the day, I'm going to ask him what I asked you, which are, who is he looking forward to hearing from? And also, how do you think about taking in all of this information over the next 10 hours? It's a really fast-paced, very dense program that we put together. So I'll ask him for some tips on that as well.
Yeah. Make a strong pot of coffee if you're watching virtually. You will need it, especially those people who are not in the time zones. I'm always surprised about how long people stay with us from Europe and sometimes even Asia to follow along with the program. So I'm very grateful for the people who are watching. That always makes us feel good that we have a broad audience who gets something out of it and goes to do something with it, right? So I think we have a brilliant theme this year. It is generally applicable, it's highly inspirational, and there's also so much to learn that people can put into action right away, whether it's at P&G or elsewhere. So I'm excited, John. It's like, and then one of the people who will also be coming in is Rebecca Homkes, who is a professor at the London Business School. And we had a great conversation with her, and her tenet is like times of uncertainty are actually the best opportunities for market growth. The natural reaction is to go hide, right? The best reaction from a business perspective is see the silver lining, the big silver lining around the dark cloud that might be at the horizon, and go do something with it. So she will actually cap it at the end of the day with a couple of things that you can do to make the most from uncertain times to drive market growth and value creation. So I'm excited about that one too.
One more question that we just got in that we have time for. I think we only have time for this one more question, but are the thousands of registered participants the customers of P&G? And the answer to that is yes, and the majority of the folks who register and come are in one way or another directly affiliated with P&G. They're either employees of P&G or they're in what I call the P&G ecosystem, which is vast. They would be partners or vendors or customers. But there are probably 15% of the folks who are just interested in business strategy and innovation and who are sort of following alone at their office or at home. But it is really a pretty diverse group. Yeah. If I recall, Stan, was it 60 or 70 different countries were?
I think last year was exactly 67 countries around the world. So like even somewhere in Africa that people were tuning in. Yeah. Kind of wanted to call those people and see what they thought of the program, right? Yeah. But again, it's like I think the theme is globally applicable. We are a global company. We operate in many countries around the world. Over 5 billion people are touched by P&G products every year in some way or form that they buy them. Lots of people make that happen together. So, and Signal is organized in the spirit of together we can do it. And market growth, what John Moeller will explain is, it will lift all boats. right? And this is in that spirit that we bring Signal. We want to lift all boats in our ecosystem so that we all get to live in a better world where we can pluck the fruits from.
Well, Stan, get some rest. We've got a big week coming up. Thank you to everybody who joined us and to those who might be watching later. And remember to go to pgsignal.com where you can sign up for the Signal 360 newsletter, and you can find links to register for the event in 1 week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next Wednesday.
Take care.